Welcome back, my lovelies. Today, it's all about the high-end versus dupe makeup. Let's jump into it. Let's start with primer. First one is by Milk Makeup. This is their Hydro Grip Primer, $34, versus the Hard Candy. This is their Sheer Envy Hydrating Primer, $7. 34 versus 7. Let's see how they compare. So, right side, high-end, left side, dupes. So I just swatched both of these, and the Hard Candy has like the same exact tone, a green tint to it, which is so fascinating. So let's go with the Milk Hydro. And if you've never tried this primer before, it's kind of like a very thick serum. It's not like your typical primer, but it definitely has that grippy characteristic. Let's see if the Hard Candy compares at all. It even has that like same texture, very thick, has a little bit of that cooling sensation, but let's apply it and see if it's similar enough. This one's a little harder to spread. It's not as smooth. Okay, that's actually very similar. I feel like it's a little more tacky actually. Oh, nope. It's actually less tacky, but it feels a little more sticky on the face. And both kind of provided a pretty nice glow, but even on my face, it feels very, very similar. So we have the Giorgio Armani, the Luminous Silk Foundation. This is $64 versus the L'Oreal True Match Lumi, their Healthy Luminous Makeup, $10.59. But again, depending from which retailer you get it from. This got it from Target. But I feel like nothing will ever replace this one for me, just because it's so luxurious and nothing ever comes close to it. But you know what? I haven't put 1-to-1, so let's put these on. The Giorgio Armani, it looks like you get a lot more product with one pump. And the color is a little different than the L'Oreal. So I'm just gonna put them on my face right away, and then we'll blend them out. Even one pump is way too much for one side, for me personally. And then we're gonna take the L'Oreal, and this one's definitely a lot more liquidy than the Armani. And I never have any issues blending this foundation out. You can see I feel like it gives the perfect amount of coverage, but it still looks like your skin. Something about this is just so stunning. And it does wear really, really beautifully throughout the day. Let's go with the L'Oreal side. And this one is definitely, you can see the finish, it's definitely a lot more luminous versus the Armani. It's a little more subdued, but it's still luminous enough where you look very glowy and healthy in a good way. But blends in really, really nice, very smooth. It's pretty even, I would say, in coverage, but you can still see a lot more of my cheeks on this side and the redness peeking through. I think they look similar enough. No, I mean, they look pretty different. I mean, the finish is just definitely a lot more luminous. It's definitely more glowy versus the Armani. It's definitely, like I said, it's a little more of a natural luminous finish. It's not super, super glowy. Even up close, when you look at the face, you can see like really, really tiny micro glitters on this side to provide that glowy, luminous finish. With the L'Oreal on this side, there is nothing glittery or shiny happening that looks unnatural. So the first product for the brows, we have these two against each other. The Anastasia Beverly Hills Her Brow Freeze Styling Wax, $24, versus this brand right here, City Color Be Bold Brow Soap. This is $8. But let's first apply Anastasia's, and a little goes a long way. So for the brush, I'm actually using her brush, number 12, ABH. I'm using the spoolie, and then I always use the cap to really kind of work the product in and then take a lot of that product off. Not putting too much pressure on the brows, I just like to work this through. And it has that like tackiness, but it's not sticky where it's literally like glue. It just somehow magically works through your brows, and you're still able to brush through when there's other products that literally feels like got to be glue, you know, for your hair. This doesn't have any kind of stickiness to it where you literally can't brush through your brows. And they look so much more full now. All right, I'm just gonna let them be, and I'm gonna do the same thing on this side. And their directions for City Color, they're saying you can use it with water, kind of like a regular brow soap, or use dry, which I'm going to use dry just because of Anastasia's. I use it dry. And their spoolie, they also said bend 90 and then dip it in there. And I'm going to do the same thing, kind of work this into the spoolie a little bit. And it has that consistency. It doesn't have that soap consistency where you have to like scrape it. It really just starts breaking down once you put your spoolie in there. And it kind of has that Anastasia consistency in the brow freeze. Okay, that was really easy. Look at that. And it looks like Anastasia's. Wow, okay. That was awesome. Now we'll see which one actually has more staying power. I'm excited because that was really, really easy. So for my brow products, I have brow pens. This one is by Glossier, and this is their Brow Flick. $18 versus the NYX. This is their Lift and Snatch Brow Tint Pen, $11. I swatched both of them and they have a little bit more pigment than the Glossier, which can be a good thing, but also a bad thing, especially for a brow pen. So let's go in first with the Glossier on the side. I really like this shade, the brown. It's really, really nice and neutral, but still provides enough color and depth to the brows, but it's not harsh and intense. I'm not gonna mimics hair-like strokes. I'm just gonna quickly go in just underneath right here just to kind of smudge out those little lines. Let's go in with NYX. Yeah, the ash brown's a little dark, has a lot more pigment. Yeah, you can see that right away. It doesn't look as natural as the Glossier. Go in with blonde, make sure it's actually blonde. Yep, it's a little bit better. Yeah, it's so pigmented. I don't know if I like that for my brow pen. I kind of like the Glossier a lot more just because it's a lot more natural. It's really nice though. I love how precise it is. The Glossier, I feel like you just have so much more control with it versus the NYX, especially if you're not comfortable with it. Like, I'm not really comfortable with brow pens just yet because I don't use them as much, and I feel like I don't have control with the NYX versus this one. I feel like I have control and it still looks pretty soft and natural, even really up close. So overall, Brow Flick, a lot easier to use, very easy to control, and the results are actually really, really beautiful. NYX, it's a lot more pigmented, so not as much control, or it's just a little harder to draw on, especially if you're not used to this type of a brow product, just because it's literally a marker and it's really, really nice. I would say if your brows maybe are a little darker, I think this would be really great because this is the blonde shade, and that's a pretty light shade, but the brows look pretty dark. And I think I like them both, but definitely I'm gonna use this one a lot more than the NYX just because I have a lot more control with the Glossier. Let's move on to eyeshadow primer. For eyeshadow primer, we have the Urban Decay, the eyeshadow primer potion in original, $24 versus the Wet n Wild. This is their Photo Focus eyeshadow primer base, $5.49. I just like to take my ring finger and blend the primer in, or either a brush or a beauty blender, but mostly my finger. I feel like it doesn't really cancel anything out because it doesn't really have pigment, but it's a really nice eyeshadow primer that kind of just sets your eyelid. Let's take the Wet n Wild. I think this one's a little thicker in texture, but similar enough. If anything, it has a little bit more of that like a silicone filling primer feeling versus the Urban Decay, like I can't really feel on my eyelid anymore. Wet n Wild is a little thicker in texture. Urban Decay is a little bit more, it's a little more sheer, it's a little more fluid. For eyeshadow palettes, we have the Natasha Denona Her Glam palette, $65. I actually haven't played with it because I've been keeping it for this video. The Dupe is by ColourPop. This is their Stone Cold Fox eyeshadow palette, $34, but there's a lot more shades in here. So let's try to create a look. Hopefully it looks somewhat similar. Let's go for it. I'm gonna take the shade Crease. Of course, we're starting with Natasha Denona. Let's move on to the ColourPop. I think I'm gonna take this shadow right here, Stranger. Actually, I think I might mix it with these, like maybe these three. Definitely not as pigmented, but I need to just pick up more shadow. But you can see right away, it's definitely not as pigmented as Natasha Denona palette. Ooh, but that's really pretty though. These shadows are also very, very blendable, but I do find that a lot with ColourPop. They're not as pigmented as some of the other eyeshadows on the market. I'm gonna take the darkest shadow in the palette called Lash Line, and literally going to only outline the lower lash line and the top lash line, but only the outer thirds. Do the same thing with the ColourPop palette. Okay, so for the glitter shades, kind of have to like mix and match for this right here. So I'm gonna take this shadow first called Center Eyelid, which is a beautiful pink. I'm gonna put that right into the center of the lid. For this side, I'm gonna take probably Baby Doll and Mystery together. Similar enough. I feel like it's not as pink, but you can see it's definitely not as pigmented as Natasha Denona side. I think I want to take this shadow right here, this outer eyelid shadow, and take that literally just on the outer center, on the outer corners, right here. And I'll do the same thing on this side. I think I'm gonna do this one right here. It's actually really pretty. I'm gonna take this outer eyelid shade again. I'm gonna plop it like right into the center of the lower lash line. And then do the same thing with the ColourPop, that shade called Sediment to Be. Concealers from the NARS. This is the Creamy Radiant, or the Radiant Creamy Concealer, $30. I have two shades that I like to use. Vanilla, which is light 2, and then Creme Brulee 2.5. And then this supposedly is like a really great dupe for this concealer. It's the Maybelline Instant Age Rewind. It's $7.49, again, depending from which retailer, but I picked up shade 110 Fair and 120 Light. Let's take NARS. I will say this is not like a full coverage concealer. So if you're looking for a really, really full coverage, this is not it, but it's a very, very beautiful natural concealer. Now let's take Maybelline. I'm gonna take first shade Fair. We'll see how fair this is. The color is actually pretty similar. And honestly, I think this is a little bit more in coverage than the Radiant Creamy Concealer. It's also really, really beautiful. It blends in so nicely, and it has a really beautiful finish as well. All right, so for eyeliner, the first one is by KVD, and this is the Tattoo Liner. Waterproof liquid eyeliner in black. Retails for $22. The dupe for this is the NYX. This is their Epic Ink Liner. This retails for $9, and also shade black. This felt tip, it's very flexible, so you can be really precise with it too. I feel like NYX is a little darker. It's definitely more fluid, like even the way it feels with the felt tip. Because it's fluid, it's bleeding a little bit. With the KVD, I feel like I can be a little bit more precise with it. For mascara, Thrive Cosmetics, which is $24. Next we have Maybelline Sky High, and this is $8.99. Again, depending which retailer. Let's put it on to the eyes. I feel like with the Thrive Cosmetics, I have to start off very slow and then build it up because it is like a heavier formula. And this is not a new tube. Both mascaras are not new tube because they've been in my collection. But this Thrive Cosmetics wand has so many tiny little micro bristles. But I love that the bristles, they're so tightly packed. You can get a really beautiful result, and it usually never is clumpy on me, especially if I work in like really thin coats. I'm gonna do the same thing, let this dry down just a tad, and move on to Maybelline. I like to do the same thing. Start off very lightly because it is a wet formula. It's a black formula, but it's not as black as Thrive Cosmetics. I'm seeing that right away. For blush, I'm gonna use NARS versus e.l.f. So the NARS, this is their Air Matte Blush. These NARS each retail for $30 versus e.l.f. This is their Putty Blush, which is $8. For the NARS, I'm gonna take Freedom, kind of working that on the back of my hand into the brush. And when it goes onto your cheeks, it's a very natural, really soft, and it kind of gives like that really diffused look to your skin. I actually really like this formula. I think it's really nice, especially for like a cream blush, and it's definitely more matte. It's not like a super balmy type of a finish. And then let's take e.l.f. in Tahiti and work in layers. Super easy to use. You can see right away, it's a lot more pigmented. But again, the finish is very similar to the NARS. With the NARS, I think it's a little more softer and it's a little more airbrushed and definitely more matte versus this one. For the setting powder, I have two of them. Charlotte Tilbury, her Airbrush Flawless Finish in shade 1. This is $45, but people are saying this right here is a really great dupe for it. This is by Flower Beauty, and this is their Light Illusion Perfecting Powder. $14.29, and I have shade L1 Porcelain and then L4 Beige, but I'm pretty sure I'm just gonna stick with the with the porcelain shade because it looks very similar to the Charlotte Tilbury. And this is, I think, my third one that I repurchased with the Charlotte Tilbury. I just love it so much, and I love how compact it is, and it has a mirror, so great for travel or just keeping it in your purse, which is what I have. It just softens everything without making it look super heavy and caked on. Let's go in with Flower Beauty. Oh, it actually looks really pretty on the skin. I feel like it's not giving a super soft diffused look to my makeup as the Charlotte Tilbury, but it's really stunning. For bronzers, we have pretty good ones. I think they look very similar. So this one right here is by NARS. This is their matte bronzing powder in shade Vallarta, and this retails for $38. I like using this kind of brush where it kind of sculpts your cheek, but also just kind of diffuses the product onto the rest of the cheeks. And then this right here is Milani. This is their Silky Matte Bronzing Powder in shade number 2, which is Sunkissed, and it's a medium cool shade. This right here is $10.99. I think also depends on where you purchase it from. If anything, it has a little bit more warmth than the NARS, but extremely similar. This right here are my two highlighters. This is the MAC, this is the Skin Finish, Mineralized Skin Finish in Soft and Gentle. $37, and a really good dupe for this is e.l.f. This is their Baked Highlighter. $4, I have two shades. I'm not sure which one's gonna look better. Maybe even mixing the two will be like a perfect dupe for this right here. The reason why I like this formula is because it's a baked formula, but it's never powdery. It just somehow, when it goes onto your skin, it looks wet. It doesn't exaggerate anything. It doesn't make anything look dry. It's so multi-dimensional that any way you turn, it just looks so beautiful. So let's take e.l.f. It's a little dry in comparison to the MAC. Like, I'm literally rubbing it so hard, and it's coming off, but it doesn't look as wet. Let me just show you the difference. Like, you barely have to rub this, and it's just so soft. Like, look at that difference. It's just, oh, it's so dreamy. It's so wet and just beautiful. For lip liners, it's the Charlotte Tilbury Her Lip Cheat Lip Liner in Iconic Nude. It's one of my favorite lip liners. It's just so good. $22. And then we have the NYX. This is their Slim Lip Pencil. It's long-lasting lip liner in shade Natural, and it's $4. All right, let's apply this first. So for lipstick, we don't have the biggest dupe, but it's still a dupe. So we have the MAC, their satin lipstick in shade 808 Faux, and this is $19. Versus the Maybelline, this is their Color Sensational lipstick in the cream formula. Number 235, Warm Me Up, $5.29. Let's apply these. If I told you I have 4 different lip products on, in different colors, would you believe me?
No.
If anything, I will pinpoint that the lip liner, Charlotte Tilbury, her iconic lip liner, is a little darker than the NYX, but when it's pulled together like this, like, it's very similar. Can I just say, wow, this honestly looks like all the same products on my face besides the colors, some of them. I will say the least dupe is definitely the foundation for me. The L'Oreal Lumi versus the Armani Luminous Silk Foundation. I think the formulas are way too different, and not even talking about the colors, but the formulas are way too different. I think there's still quite a bit of work to do to compete with the Armani. I think that's like the only product that I will say it's not very comparable. And the concealers. I like each concealer. The Radiant Creamy Concealer, it's really beautiful, and so is the Maybelline. Very stunning, but I don't think it's a great dupe. But I feel like everything else kind of did a good job, even though some of the formulas were a little bit different, but they still applied very similarly enough. But I'm really impressed that overall, like, honestly, it looks so similar. Even the eyeshadow. Eyeshadow is definitely a little more softer with the ColourPop versus the Natasha Denona. There's a lot more pigment. There's a little bit more pop and color happening with the Natasha Denona side. But I'm impressed with everything else and so happy that there are so many great dupes here that I've discovered even just myself right now with products that I've already had in my collection, like the bronzers and the setting powders, the lipsticks. I mean, there's just so many incredible dupes out there, and I love that formulas are always evolving and just getting better and better love that. I'm gonna do hopefully one update throughout the day. It is getting a lot darker outside faster, but I'm gonna try to get one in a couple of hours, see how we're wearing, and then definitely at the very end of the night. I'll see you guys in a little bit. Doing the first update, it's several hours later after finishing the makeup. Everything looks really good. If anything, if I'm gonna nitpick just a little bit, I'm looking a little extra heavy right here where I have a lot of texture happening right now, but I think everything still looks really good, honestly. Last and final update for the makeup. We have high-end versus dupe. Overall, what do we think of this? I honestly think this was one of the more successful high-end versus dupes because there were so many great dupes. I think the one dupe that I'm actually really excited about is the primer, which I'm usually never excited about primers. But overall, I'm very happy with a lot of these dupes. Honestly, I didn't think a lot of them were gonna be dupes, especially for the formula and colors, but very, very happy. I hope you guys found some really great dupes. Save some money because a lot of these are phenomenal. Thank you guys for watching, spending time with me, and I'll see you next one very soon.